This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock and I'm gonna call this special meeting to order. Please note that all counselors are present except for Katrina Randless and Elliot Sky. Katrina will be late, so she'll be joining us later. And we have some online people as well as some people in the audience. So,
I think we have to make sure that Elliot is excused or unexcused.
he's excused.
Okay, sure you say that, 'cause it's in our chart.
Until next week. And so this meeting was called after last Thursday when Rick turned in his termination letter to the city of John Day. You all have read it. You all have probably talked to him, or if you haven't, I suggest you reach out to him if you have further questions as to what led to that. So I'm going to open the floor up. He's supposed to be calling in, so I'm assuming he'll be joining us here momentarily. But I want this open discussion basically to know where you guys want to go. We have, as of this morning, when I talked to recruiting team, we have 5 applications. None have qualifications that meet our minimal qualifications. Some have parts and bits and pieces of qualifications. So if that's something council wants to go in that direction, or what your guys' thoughts are. He is done at the end of the month and willing to talk about possibility of helping remotely if we need him, but he will no longer be a contract with us as the city of John Day. So I'm gonna open the floor up. You guys ask questions. If I know them, if I don't, I will get them for you. So take it or leave it. Here you go.
You want me to go?
Go for it.
I would be all for hiring him. And the reason I say that is because if we go with somebody else, we step right back, they'll have to learn the whole thing. He's got so much invested in time. I know he costs more, but so is somebody else that we hire for a permanent position. I don't think he's not gonna take permanent position.
Right.
But to hire him until we get some issues resolved and we find a suitable replacement. I know that it costs more money, but in the long run, I think it'd save us money.
Okay. It's
I-
7:03 and Katrina is now here, just for the record. Go ahead, sorry.
I would like to see him brought back, but I would like to see a change in his contract to cover some of the things that he was not able to do during this one. Because I think that was a big problem. And I think if he has the authority to do certain things, I think he would be a lot happier and we'd get a lot more accomplished. Somebody has to be there to teach these new people what to do. And you can't be working full-time in the office all summer. I know, Dave, I don't think you want to be working in the office all summer. So, something's got to give. Something's got to give.
But Rick doesn't have the knowledge to teach them their jobs.
Bet he has the knowledge to know when they're not doing them.
Yes, no, maybe. It's hard for somebody to come in and teach somebody a job that they don't fully understand themselves, or they've never done themselves. They haven't worked the programs. They haven't, dealt with any of that kind of stuff. That's always been something that somebody else did, and they were just
But
present.
what are you gonna do with the new person walking in there? that doesn't even have any of the experience he has.
But we don't have any choice. We've got to have a new person in there. We can't live with an interim manager forever. We can't afford it. And it's not beneficial. I don't believe that, my own personal opinion, because I was involved a lot more than any of you other than Heather, I never did feel that we were getting our money's worth out of what we were paying for. My own personal opinion. So we've got to try and get somebody hired. And whether you bring in an interim and they have to learn everything, or you bring in a permanent person and they have to learn everything, nobody's going to come in here just knowing. They're all going to have to learn what John Day's about, what the projects are, what the budget is, what the policies are, because all cities are different. Nobody's the same. So it doesn't matter. The sooner we get somebody in there in a permanent position, the quicker we get back on track and the less time we spend spinning our wheels.
Heather, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought this was going to be an executive session. Are you in an open meeting and we can ask a
No, it
question?
is a special meeting and there's no public comment.
So we can't ask a question?
You know,
It was listed as a work session, so.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Anyway, we've got, you say 5 candidates?
it's what the latest was as of this morning with the crew, yeah.
So in my experience with the city, we had Bill Deast. He was never a city manager prior to being a city manager in John Day. And he was the city manager for umpteen years and did a reasonable job. Then Ken Bremner, who worked in Public Works, eventually was the Public Works Director when Bill Deast left, and Ken Bremner was promoted into the city manager's position. He got projects accomplished, did so-so in that position, didn't have the college education, didn't have the management background other than being a foreman and a supervisor for a while. And then after Ken Bremner, Peggy Gray, who also worked for the city. She was the city recorder, and she took over the city manager's position. And she did a pretty fair job as a city manager. I thought better than the other two, in my opinion, and I've worked for all 3 of them. So to find that perfect candidate out there in a small town that doesn't have a lot to offer, you know, you're going to have to set your goals lower. You're going to have to look for somebody that's got ability, a willingness to learn, some experience, some business background, some management background, and let them grow into the job. I mean, that's what we're faced with. And I don't see how you're going to get anybody with the kind of qualifications we'd like to see into our community. There's nothing to offer them or their families, you know, compared to the bigger cities where they're going to make more money. They've got more amenities. They got the shopping. They've got all kinds of stuff. That's just what we're faced with. That's just the facts.
Have you seen any of the applications?
Yeah, none of us have. And until we have an opportunity to see their qualifications and or interview them, talk with them ourselves, you know, we're not going to have an idea. We're hired a consulting firm that goes out and looks for city managers for cities. But they're looking for the type of people that would be city managers in Salem and Portland and Eugene and, you know, places like that. You're going to get those kind of people here. Not unless they're just tired of the city and they're
Right,
looking.
they want to retire here.
Yeah, and they're looking for a place to get away for 2 or 3 years, you know, before they retire.
At what point can we see those applications or start interviewing these people?
I believe the admin committee could review those and then we bring them to council to review. We've done it in the past when we were looking at other ones that were submitted when we had the opening when Nick resigned, but that would be the process, is admin would see them. I would request them from the consulting firm. Admin would see them and then, so, I mean, I'm at a point where, oh, still there.
We lost the TV.
I'm at a point where I won't, hold on. I don't want to say absolutely, let's not even look at them, like that'd be foolish of us, I feel like. We have the 5. I am frustrated with some scenarios that vision. No. Hold on. My owl. Sorry, guys. Rick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, actually. Do you hear me? Well, I was hearing you. Now I'm not.
I can hear Rick, but now I can't hear the council.
Now I hear whoever just talked. I hear them.
Shannon.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure they can hear us.
Are you at the meeting or are you on remote?
No, I'm on remote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're clear to me.
Same, but I don't think they can hear us.
I can hear you. Please be careful what you say.
I hear you now, Heather. Heather, I hear you now.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, we're good.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So I'm frustrated at the situation. I'm frustrated at how we got here. We need somebody in that office. I understand that piece. We need a manager to be in there as much as possible. We haven't really had that for 9 months, to be completely honest with you, because the last 3 months of the prior one was not really there. He had checked out as well. So, I'm not willing to do the time till midnight every night. My family will not allow it. You guys will lose a May or 2 if that comes down to it. I will do what I've been doing and I will be there when I need to be and I will do what I can. But I'm not going to be in there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And I can't. I can't do it and I'm not going to do it. I have to remind myself on a daily basis that this is a volunteer position and my family has to come first. I mean, my son's birthday, against my wishes, spent 8 hours on the phone with attorneys and other things. So I need to be better about that. So I'm all for reviewing the applications and seeing what we can get. I don't know anybody who would come here on an interim base and move their entire family to a community on an interim position. So I can't speak for those 5, obviously, but I can't imagine moving my family. I mean, I know none of these people are close. They're all from a distance. And so I can't imagine anybody wanting to move their family on an interim temporary job, but I could be wrong. I haven't spoke to these 5 people. But I think that's something that we need to think about is think about it for yourself. Like, would you move your family for a 6-month temporary job? Probably not, because housing is hard. I mean, life changes and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's something that we definitely need to think about. But I am all for reviewing what we have, and I mean, we don't know till we look, but, we should, Katrina, Chris?
I feel like I came in on the tail end of a conversation and I don't even know what the proposal is at this point.
You literally walked in 3 minutes after the meeting started, so you didn't miss much.
So I heard something about somebody coming back. I don't understand what that's about.
So, a couple people wanted to see if it was possible to bring Rick back. They're not even sure if that's a possibility, not even sure what council wants, but that was just their thoughts. Dave was saying that we would like to see the applications, see what the possibilities are. So that's kind of where we're at. And then I just said what I'm.
But the position we've advertised for is a permanent position.
Full-time,
Full-time,
yes.
permanent, not an interim. Okay. So why what's the?
Because nobody has the qualifications that meet our qualifications.
None of the 5 candidates
Correct.
have the qualifications.
Correct. So if we were to bring them in, we're bringing someone in. And I mean, like, luckily we made the wage a big scale, so that can be part of negotiations when interviews and negotiations start happening, obviously. And I mean, I just don't know. I haven't seen them. David, I mean, none of us have seen them. And so I don't know what we're looking at. I don't know what the non-qualifications are, to be completely honest. I'm going at this blind right now. And so the reason for this was the consulting firm didn't feel like we had any qualified candidates. And so they weren't ready to close it. But because it's still open, and that's why we've gotten 2 more just since the first of the month. So, because we only had 3 at the first cutoff. And so, but I mean, we can review them and see where it takes us, but I would like to have a backup plan because we have no one at the end of the month, basically. And so, and it's going to take time, I get that. And so I mean, like, if we know an end is in sight, then we can Band-Aid it through like we did. Our staff is more trained. I mean, we have more trained staff than we did when January hit. So there is that little bit of piece, but yeah.
I mean, I would agree that there's no reason not to review if people have turned in applications. I think we find people all the time unexpectedly at our job that fit, that don't have a degree or don't have whatever we ideally want them to have. And I think, I think we would be silly not to look at them and, even, anyway, entertain some conversation with people. Sometimes you have come across on paper a whole lot differently than you do in person. And so I would think it would be silly not to at least look. And I don't know what backup plans can look like.
Mr. Labhart?
First time I've heard Rick giving 30-day notice was your email, just this week.
That's.
I wanted to ask Rick, are you okay with us holding an open hearing concerning your job?
Oh, I mean, this meeting here? No, yeah, no, that's fine. But first of all, I'm a contract, so I'm not an employee. No, yeah, I mean, I think you just want to be careful on, there are topics you want to be careful of, but this discussion you're having right now does not bother me at all.
Actually, like before we formally schedule
I'm
it.
hearing some rumblings that maybe something is wrong with Rick, or pleased with what he was doing, or what? Is that wrong?
I'm not satisfied.
Okay. So if you're saying he might be willing to come back. Why would he resign?
So
Yes,
Rick, hold on. Let's let Rick answer that. Rick?
I think that probably a lot of this kind of a topic is more of an executive session topic. But the reason that I gave the notice was, and I think it was in my letter, and I don't know, you should all have it. I don't know who does or doesn't have it, but was simply that after about 60 days of being an interim, you start to kind of get a feel for what maybe some of the needs might be, and where you need to head in order to prepare for, call it, the permanent manager. And so somewhere between 60 and 90, and we just hit, call it, the 1st of June was 90 days. And back in May, it became kind of apparent that I could see some things that would help immensely, and that is that the amount of work and things that are required in John Day at this time really requires someone on site and full time. Where I was working, Chris, my contract, you weren't around, but was part-time. I said that when I came. I can't provide full-time. And then secondly, was in town on the week of the meetings. And so basically, you're not there 25% of the time. And there's 25% of a partial. So I felt that I can't be full-time. That's not a choice I have. I have other business interests that I can't do. So when I've worked other interims, that always is a condition of me taking a job. And that works for some. It doesn't work for others. And after being in John Day for about 90 days, I think it's better for you and for the success of the community, and to move the city to where you're set to have a permanent person move their family. You need someone there 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, maybe they work 4 days a week and have 3-day weekends and they can drive back. That's why I did that, because I don't think it will work, and I don't think we're going to get where you need to get to bring in a permanent person.
Heather, are you saying that contract people do not fall under executive?
Unless they request it, and he did not.
So it was open, that's what I mean. Okay, that's why I asked.
Tim and I discussed this Thursday before you guys got this sent out,
Okay.
before this meeting was scheduled with the attorney. We were gonna do executive, and then the attorney was like, well, it really doesn't fall under executive because so yeah. We've done all of the check boxes,
Just wanna make
Chris,
sure.
and made sure that legal has approved it, Rick approved it.
He can't approve the open sessions.
Right.
Well, I know right now, when I heard that the office was not open Friday, in fact, I talked to Heather about it. What's going on? And she said, oh, that's all she said. So we're not giving the community services, and just the basic services, paying your bills and stuff like that. I think we have more problems than just city manager. I think our staff too is some problems. And that might be solved by a city manager that comes in
building.
Yeah.
I think an in-building person would tremendously help. Rick has tried the little bits that he's here, I believe, but we also didn't give him any real personnel power in his contract to do anything of that sort. So with a city manager position, they would have the personnel piece to manage the personnel. I think it will be beneficial, obviously, to have somebody here, even if it's 4 days out of 5 versus part-time. I don't want to undershoot what Rick has done. He got us through the budget, probably the shortest budget meeting him and Anna have ever produced, so good job on that one. I have appreciated a lot of his knowledge that he's brought to us with our council meetings and controlling the public and speaking to partners. He has worked hard to try to build some gaps that were left by prior management with partners in the county and other cities. And I've heard tremendous great things about him in the community from partners and community people. So, but I also understand that he's came to the point where he realizes that we need more and he can't provide that. And so, that's where we're at.
I'd like to piggyback on what Trina said. We're not going to do it.
No.
I have experience hiring people that didn't beat the college education, and they turned out to be head of the department. So just something that I would be in favor of taking a look at the applications, starting the process with the administrative committee.
Okay.
Is there a way to also, and again, I don't know where we're at with what the breakdown is on executive session, but it does seem like obviously there's something brewing underneath all of this too. There's some conflict. So how?
Feel it too?
We have emails, yes. And so I also value and understand that the whole city has to keep running. And so yes, we need a city manager, but we also need a cohesive team. And so how can we facilitate a cohesive team where the current staff who are trained and know how to do the things that have to be done, I assume they do because the city's continuing to run. How do we support them in growing their skills and working with whoever is our next city manager, and that they feel that they're a valid and appreciated part of the team? Because I don't want to hire a city manager and then start all over with staff again, because I assume that costs us as a city quite a lot of money, knowing how much it costs for us in training and time. And so if you're considering bringing in a new city manager and then that person who already likely isn't going to know all the ins and outs, to try to have to train a new staff. And so are there ways that we can include the current staff in some piece of interviews where they can give input? I know sometimes that ability to feel heard can help.
So reviewing applications will be done in executive session, just in case that person's business knows, like we don't want to share something that somebody's looking for work if they were local or whatever.
I mean more of the interviews. I'm sorry.
I think that we could have some management on the interview panel, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah, we could have some of the management team on the interview panel if we go forward with any of the applications after administration and then council. I agree with you.
Heather, in talking with the consultant, what normally they would do, and we've paid them to do, unless you want to do it differently, they've got the 5 or whatever they have right now. Today it could be 6. I mean, it could change daily. But at this point, they would review that group, and then they would decide who may be the top 2 or 3, or if all 5 were good, and then they would send that forward. So it kind of depolitics it. And then, but you would see on paper, I guess, all of them, but you would bring potentially in, or you would help, or he would explain, he or she would, actually the consultants are males, but they would explain to you why they ranked the ones that they have, that type of thing. And then you could decide from there if there was something. But that is what they're paid for. And, he has told me that there's a couple potentials in that group.
Move forward with this. Do you contact them and say, start scoring? Like, what's the next step?
Not scoring yet. I think that they would, I just talked to him yesterday. They couldn't be on tonight because they're at, they just got with this just popped up, a couple days ago. They have, they've got 30 recruitments going, so they're off at other meetings and doing things. We could schedule. He needed to talk in an executive session with us, to kind of talk about some things. And I did talk to Jeremy, and he said we could do that. And so I think that that's the first step, is to set up an executive session when they can be there, or I mean Zoom. They're over in the Portland area, and go over those topics that he has. And then once you work through that, then the second step would be meet and then narrow that list down. If there's some that just maybe aren't at all qualified. So you at the end, you get to decide who you interview, and so they often will say, these are our top 5, these are our middle 5, and these are our bottom 5, and the council will say, I want to pull this one up. But it is nice to have an independent third party do the initial ranking. That's really what you hired them for.
So could you see, since we have a regular council meeting scheduled at 7 on the 13th, could you see if they would be available for an executive session at 6 on the 13th?
Yes, that would probably be the easiest, as long as Jeremy's available via Zoom, because he's got lots of cities on Tuesdays. And it's funny, all the twice a month people tend to all be Tuesdays, and they're always the second and fourth. Most cities our size only are once a month, and they tend to be the third Tuesday. So that night, Jeremy's probably got 3 or 4 cities that meet. But at 6, we might be able to get that done. So that would be the only thing. But I can check with him tomorrow. I'll send him an email tonight and just see if he's available, and then make sure the consultants. There's 2 of them working on it, but the owner wanted to make sure that we kind of talked about some things.
Okay.
Rick, this is Chris. Why would we need the lawyer present?
Oh, in an executive session, because that's required. You need, if you're going to hold an executive session, you would always have legal counsel there.
Is it required?
Well,
Why would we not want
I've never been in one anywhere without that.
know if I've ever been through one with the city of John Day that our attorney hasn't been at least on Zoom or present. I mean, do you have, is there a reason against it?
Well, it costs us, what,
It does.
$200 or whatever.
But it also is protection, because if for some reason a counselor gets off topic or whatever, he's gonna stop it right then and there and say, whoa, not on this.
That's our job.
It is, but
That's our job. The problem, and Rick hit it on, is we hire this group, we pay them big bucks to look at the people that have applied and recommend here. And before that happens, I believe the committee is going to look ahead and say, yeah, we agree, and bring it to the council executive session. I don't think you're going to hire, but that's what you're going to do, is just consider hire. Just consider.
But the consultants are asking for an executive session to go over some topics that need to be spoke about in executive session before they will even.
What are those topics?
I cannot say those, and we need to have, you would know when the executive session notice comes.
Well, we got to give executive notice.
Correct, when the notice comes out, we will know what the topic.
It sounds like somebody already knows.
I know as the mayor, but I'm not going to make it public until it needs to be, and it cannot be right now. So,
Yeah, Chris, believe me, you would want to have an attorney on this. He's not there to help stamp of approval of the top applicants. It's more of the process and other items related to things that really aren't public and can't be public.
Yeah, we have personnel that we need to protect, we have contractors we need to protect, so. Okay, so can you reach out to consulting firm and Jeremy to see about the 13th at 6 p.m.? And if that's the case,
Yes.
we'll add it. Meeting.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll send emails tonight, and then, we should know by tomorrow, really. I mean, they would know if they're available. And it could be, if it's 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, maybe you just have to have it, and hopefully if someone needs to take an hour off work or something, they could do it. And I mean, it's kind of one of those things that you're going to have to, sometimes there are, different times. But that day would be the best, since obviously.
Would be ideal, but let us know their time and I can get it out to council and confirm that we at least can have enough here for the discussion.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other, anything else on this topic that you guys want to talk about? Anything that you would like Rick to relay to the consulting firm when they're talking about looking through the possible applicants? Anything else on this topic? I'm open to discussion.
You said you wanted a backup plan.
I do. I would prefer one because
So,
January 11th is not what I thought of a black backup plan.
so like thinking outside of the box, instead of you being the person, you and Dave being the people who live at City Hall, can we delegate certain actions, certain responsibilities to each of the committees so that at least it's spread a little more? I mean, I know that we created where the two of you have the ability to act as the city manager. Could do to help alleviate some of that. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
So I would say, to be completely honest with you, a lot of the city manager stuff to do is answering email, meeting with consultants, meeting with contract stuff that's plant stuff. I mean, like Rick and I were on a phone on Friday for 3 hours. It's a lot of that stuff that I worry if we have, I mean, I don't want this to sound rude, but like too many cooks in the kitchen, like too many hands in the pot. There's a lot, but it's a lot of like answering emails, answering phone calls. When planning stuff comes in, reviewing it a little bit. If it's something that is above, then we send it off to Brock, obviously. Grant administration stuff is all being sent to Nick, Nick D. So it's really having that person in the office, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's really, because when that person comes in mad because their water's going to get shut off, it is not the girls' fault to deal with the nasty public, to be completely honest with you. That's the manager's position to deal with. And so, and like I've heard that repeatedly, like just having that person in there when there's an issue or when there's a mad person or when there's somebody that has a question about their planning or whatever, like those girls have a job to do and they're doing a great job with it, but they only know their job. They don't know the city manager behind the scenes of 98 emails that we get every day. And so it really is having that body in the building to just be there. Now, who that looks, I don't know. I just know, I mean, it'll be a little bit better because it won't be till midnight every night because I won't be doing my full-time job because we're on summer break. But I also have, like, I have weddings, I have family trips coming up. Like, I have a life this summer too. Dave has a life. We all have a life. But it really is somebody to be in the office, answering the questions as needed, answering the emails, answering the phone calls. The signing of the invoices, that can be done in 5 minutes with Dave and I. Like, that's not the stuff that takes the time. It's really just having the body there. I mean, that. Unfortunately, yeah. No, I love the idea. I really do. But
that was a perfectly acceptable answer. I just am trying to. Yeah. I agree that I don't think it's fair that one or two people who are volunteers are putting in that many hours. I also don't really have the hours because my job doesn't stop in the summer. And in fact, because we're losing staff, my job is going to double in the summer, but I just am trying, is there something else we can do to alleviate?
Yeah, and I think like the office being closed, like sicknesses are gonna happen, it's gonna happen. We would like it to not happen with 3 in a part-time, but it does happen. People have normal days off, people get sick, kids get sick, life happens, like it's gonna happen. If I wouldn't have had a birthday party and family coming to town, I would have opened City Hall on Friday and just been there for at least to answer phones and take whatever. I was there building the budget book anyway, but I had prior commitments for my family. So from this point forward, if that were to happen again and I'm not home, I mean, it is what it is. But I agree that the community, they demand us to be open, and they absolutely have the right to demand us to be open. And so it happens, but it's not happening like it was way before when previous, like our staff has really, really been there to be open for the majority of the time. So I would hope that's not a frequent thing, and it hasn't been. So I don't see that being a repeat thing. So I just it's gonna happen. People are gonna get sick, but we can't control that. But from here on out, if that were to happen again, I probably would just run down and open it up and at least be there to answer the phone. Like I did answer the phone while I was there building the budget books and spoke to a couple people, but I had prior stuff. And so, so that's kind of, backup plan. I don't know what it could be right now. I don't wanna, I hope in a perfect world that one of these 5 magically are gonna be what we are looking for, or that we are what they're looking for. That's the other piece of it, is we've got to sell ourselves to them, basically. This is a big move for all of them, like I said. So I would hope we've done that. Obviously they've applied, so some part of our recruitment process has worked because they've put in their name in the hat. So our recruiting firm, I feel like, has done a really, really good job with that piece of it and been worth all of it. I agree with Chris, like we're paying them to do something, so let's let them do what we paid them to do. And then we go from there.
Well, I don't know whether Rick would do it, but if he could stay on for another 30 days, if we have a problem, that would alleviate a lot of, give us a little more flexibility. And I'm just concerned about who we get in here.
Well, it's gonna take time. It's not gonna be in the 30 days.
Right.
Rick, did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
You didn't want to hear it though, huh?
It sounds to me like that's the reason he put his 30 days notice in. He cannot devote the time he feels needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. So unfortunately,
anyone that has a few questions, you can certainly call me. I have an open book in general. So you any of the council, obviously, you have my cell phone number, as does most of the community.
anything further, or I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
David made the motion. And second, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Alrighty, thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you guys.